We got 7 different stories from 7 different media outlets, guys. It's time for another episode of Regan's Newsround. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with another episode of Regan's Newsround, where I cover 7 different stories from 7 different media outlets here, guys, roughly around about an hour or so. And we start here with a headline from The Guardian here that the UK regulator is to apologise to gay doctors being struck off because of their sexuality. The exclusive reveals that the GMC is truly sorry for investigations and sanctions even after homophobic laws were repealed. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. This is pretty abhorrent, to say the least. I mean, it's 2024, and the fact that this is coming out now, when we are a very diverse, multicultural United Kingdom, and I can't believe these kind of things are still happening. They shouldn't be happening, and regardless of it's not even just a premise of whether they're a doctor or not, but whatever work that they do, whatever kind of work they do, not just whether they're doctors, nurses, teachers, whatever it might be, they should not be dismissed or treated indifferently simply because of their sexuality. As long as they are doing their job, why does that matter? As long as they are qualified to do their job, why should their sexuality matter? And I think it should only be maybe an issue unless the only case that I can see is actually if they're imposing their sexuality on others instead of actually doing their job. And that might be the only case where I can actually see it. But even that is but that's no different than if a straight person basically causing a ruck, really. But I don't see it like that. I see this as them being struck off simply because of them being gay, and I don't see why they should be struck off just because of their sexuality. I don't see it like that. And in my life, I've worked with straight people, I've worked with non-binary people, I've even worked with gay people, believe it or not. And guess what? I didn't care about their sexuality. I didn't care as long as they were good at their job and they were co-workers or whatever. As long as they did their job, just like me at the time, and I was just like, who cares? Who cares, really? And that's how it should be perceived. And this ideology that we have with some people, where they think that it's ruining the humanity or something, or that they're decreasing the human population or something, or it's not what God wanted, and they're just like, my premise is that why can't we let people be themselves? Why can't we let people be themselves? And that's the thing that I look at this as. And I think it's pretty shameful, the UK regulator, on this. And while it is safe to say that it's truly sorry, the damage has kind of already been done, really, based off this. But let's read into it anyway. So the UK medical regulator is to apologise to gay doctors struck off because of their sexuality, The Guardian can reveal. The General Medical Council will issue a formal apology to medics it investigates, sanctions, issues warnings to or ban from practising due to their convictions they had under the now repealed legislation outlawing male homosexuality. Established in 1858, the GMC is one of the world's oldest medical bodies and the independent regulator of doctors working in England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. It has the power to begin inquiries that can ultimately determine whether medics can continue to treat patients. Between 1899 and 1994, it initiated fitness to practice proceedings against at least 40 male doctors because of their sexuality. According to the results of a recent internal investigation by the GMC, at least 8 were struck off the medical register as a result, unable to practice medicine ever again. So 40 of them between 1899 and 1994. I mean, to us, it may seem like a low number, but it is still 40 doctors, and 8 of them being struck off. Now, what is the actual reason they were struck off? Because of their sexuality. Okay. That's not really fair, is it, when you think about it? Charlie Mason, the chief executive of GMC, said the findings uncovered by its review were shocking and apologised for the harm caused to doctors, professionals, and personal lives. As a regulator, we took action against male doctors who were convicted of engaging or attempting to engage in consensual sexual activity with other men, he said. So they're saying that they were attempting to engage in consensual sexual activity with. Like I said, as long as it doesn't affect their careers, that shouldn't be the case. As long as they know their job is their job, shouldn't be in any way should be an issue here. But the wording is a bit weird with the wording on all this. We overtly impacted and in some cases ended careers, and for that we want to apologise. In a statement to be issued on Thursday, that's the time of this recording, the GMC will express how truly sorry it was for the actions taken against doctors with convictions under homophobic laws, and said it would now be considered unjust. In the apology, Professor Dame Karen McEwen, the GMC chair, will say homophobic laws and attitudes that was in place into the 1980s and beyond caused personal and professional harm. We compounded that harm and then took additional regulatory action against those who were on the medical register. In some cases, that meant the end of practitioners' careers, and for this, we are truly sorry. The GMC's architects, working with the regulator LGBTQ+ staff networks, searched records for cases and doctors subjugated to fitness to practice proceedings because they had criminal convictions based on sexuality. The Sexual Offenders Act decriminalised private homosexual acts between men aged over 21 in England and Wales in 1967. The law was not changed in Scotland until 1980 or in Ireland until 1982. Excuse me. At least 40 cases were found, 8 doctors struck off as a result. The last confirmed erasure was in 1966, but other doctors were still being investigated or the issue with warnings of their sexuality a decade later. That we were still considering cases with sanctions against doctor as late as the 1990s is shocking, says Macy. Even when regulatory action wasn't taken, the stress of having a case before the GMC and with it their sexual orientation condemned will have been considerable. That could have applied a lot of unnecessary stress and pressure that they did not need in any way, shape or form. McEwen conceded that the GMC did not know the precise total of how many doctors were deprived or struck off because of their sexuality. We cannot be sure that the true number of doctors we took historic action against, she said. Dr. Duncan McGregor of GLAND, the Association of LGBTQ plus doctors and dentists, welcomed the apology from the GMC. Its profound impact on these actions on the lives cannot be overstated, he said. This apology is an important step in righting the wrongs of the past, and while the hurt and damage has been caused by those doctors cannot be undone, it is important to acknowledge past injustices. Sorry, I got something wrong with my throat today, I apologise. Although sexuality is no longer posing the threat of being struck off the medical register, prejudged against LGBTQ plus health staff persists to this day, McGregor cautioned. This apology represents progress towards justice for those impacted by the historic homophobic laws and progress for the LGBTQ plus community. We hope this gesture brings some measure of solace to those affected and their loved ones. McGregor said it is practically important to recognise that the initiatives came from within the GMC, and we express our gratitude to members of the GMC, the LGBTQ plus staff network, for their work and dedication in helping bring about this apology. McGregor acknowledged that more still need to be done to support the LGBTQ plus doctors and patients. We all have a part to play in this, she said, and as a regulator and employer, we're committed to championing equality, diversity, and inclusivity in all we do. I would say that it has come along. It has obviously, it has come a long way, but there are still obviously works to be done. But still, I will say that I'm glad that there has been an acknowledgement of the past and the handling of how doctors have been treated, which is a good thing. It's good that there has been the acknowledgement has been there, guys. I think that's really important to know that at least there has been an acknowledgement and an apology, but it doesn't obviously change the damage. The damage has already been done, as I'm sure we're all aware. but hopefully a line will be drawn under this, and they will not be having this issue going forward. At least we can only hope. So next one, guys, is regarding Prime Minister's questions, really. I will come to more on what happened on Wednesday evening, but first this one from Sky News here. So Rishi Sunak refuses to repeat claims the ex-Post Office boss was lying about the compensation delays. So the Prime Minister had ignored calls to reiterate allegations made by Kemi Badenoch earlier this week. The former Post Office boss, Henry Sultan, was lying. So I was planning to cover this PMQs on Wednesday night's live stream, but I couldn't because of other story, which we're going to get to later. But the Prime Minister and Prime Minister's questions was pretty much the majority of it was quite fast between him and Keir Starmer. The 6 questions were quite rapid between the two, and it really was a case of trying to understand who is lying about what's going on with regards to the Post Office boss. Originally, I was very sceptical of calling out Kemi Badenoch. I was very careful not to do that, but based on more evidence coming to light and more what people are saying and what we're seeing, it appears more and more like Kemi is kind of digging herself a little bit of a hole here. Now, we don't know the findings, and we should be entitled to the findings if Henry Sultan was lying. But at the moment, it's kind of he say, she say kind of thing, and I don't think that's right in any way, shape, or form. But what's worse is that in PMQs, Rishi Sunak refused to repeat the claims that she made in her statement on the day before. So that's certainly not backing, certainly not throwing his weight behind Kemi Badenoch in any way, shape, or form, Rishi Sunak, which is very interesting to say the least. So Rishi Sunak has refused to repeat Kemi Badenoch's claim that the former Post Office boss was lying when he said he was told to delay compensation to Horizon scandal victims. So Keir Starmer asked the Prime Minister if he was prepared to personally repeat the allegations made by his business secretary regarding Henry Sultan. Mr. Sultan, who was sacked last month, has claimed that he was told to stall payouts to sub-postmasters due to financial concerns ahead of the general election, something Mrs. Badenoch has strongly denied. Mr. Sunak did not answer the Labour leader's question directly, simply saying Mr. Sultan was fired because of serious concerns about his conduct. The details, we still don't know the details at the time of this recording. Yeah, we have taken up steps to ensure victims of the Horizon scandal receive compensation as swiftly as possible, and that remains our priority. Sir Keir, speaking at PMQs, pressed him on Mrs. Badenoch's statement on Monday that Mr. Sultan was at no point told to delay compensation payments by either or an official of a minister or any government department, and at no point it was suggested that a delay would be a benefit to the Treasury. Asked if he will investigate that statement is correct, the Prime Minister repeated that Mr. Sultan was asked to step down after serious concerns were raised. The exchange comes after an unearthed memo from Mr. Sultan which raised questions about Mrs. Badenoch's claims. It has emerged that Mr. Sultan wrote a note on the 5th of January last year, in which he said that Sarah Bombi, the then permanent secretary at the Business Department, had warned him during a meeting that day not to rip off the band aid in terms of government finances in the run-up to the election. According to the note seen by Sky News, Mr. Sultan has said that the Post Office Board had identified a financial shortfall of £160 million as of September 2022, and that there was a likelihood of significant reduction in post offices if more government funding was not made available. He wrote, Sarah was sympathetic to all of the above. She understood the huge commercial challenge and the seriousness of the financial position. She described all the options as unattractive. However, politicians do not necessarily like to confront reality. This was particularly applied when there was no obvious route to profitability. She said we needed to know that in the run-up to the election, there was no appetite to rip off the band-aid. And now was not the time to be dealing with those long-term issues. We need to plan to hobble up to the election. Labour MP Liam Bride, who was chair of the Parliament Business Committee, said the note is a go-slow order without a doubt. He said the committee will attempt to flush out the truth on Tuesday when Mr. Sultan appeared before MPs. The note has sparked demands from Lib Dems for Mr. Sunak's ethnic advisor to investigate whether Mrs. Badenoch misled the Parliament with her accusations that Mr. Sultan was lying. Labour said there needs to be a Cabinet Office investigation into establish the veracity of Mr. Sultan's claims. Earlier, a government source was dismissed of the memo and suggested Mr. Sultan was either confused or deliberately mixing up long-standing issues around post office finance with the payouts to wrongfully convicted sub-postmasters. They added, even if we trust the veracity of a memo he wrote himself, and there is not much to suggest that we can, given the false accusations that have been made about the Secretary of State in his original interview, it's time for Henry Solon to admit his interview on Sunday was a misrepresentation of his conversations with ministers and officials and to apologise to the government and the postmasters. When ousted bosses asked to delay compensation payments in his original interview with the Sunday Times, Mr. Sultan claimed that he was ordered by a senior civil servant to stall spending on compensation for the Horizon victims to allow the government to limp into the election. And he said it was not an anti-postmaster thing, it was straight financials. He also claimed that he was sacked and he told someone had to take the rap for the Horizon scandal, which came under renewed public scrutiny following the ITV drama Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. Mr. Sultan stood by and claimed in the face of government denials, insisting that there was no real movement on the payouts until the airing of the ITV drama. This is absolutely true. This part here, this is absolutely true. Until that drama came out, nobody was talking about it. The media weren't talking about it, and certainly was barely much talking to the government about it. This is undeniable here. None of them gave a damn before the drama, and only because of the drama, only because of the outrage from the public, that the government has actually decided to move on it, to supposedly take action on it. If it wasn't for that drama, trust me, this article probably would not even be here. On Monday, Ms. Bagnott said that the claims are completely false and accused Mr. Sultan of seeking revenge after he was sacked. She also claimed that he was being investigated over bullying allegations before he was dismissed from his short-lived post, something which he has denied. Here's the thing, if what Kimmy is saying, just show us the evidence, If she's not lying, show us the evidence. But the thing is, she's not going to show us the evidence, which means how can we try to take her word for it in this situation? He has said he has decided to go public out, desired to ensure that the public were fully aware of the facts around the multiple failures that have led to postmasters in this country being badly let down. The Horizon scandal saw hundreds of sub-postmasters prosecuted because of discrepancies in the Fujitsu developed IT systems between 1999 and 2015, what has been called the biggest miscarriage of justice in UK history. There's been a lot of miscarriage of justice, and this is one of many of them, is the way I'd like to put it. But just focusing, that's pretty much what was the main premise of the arguments between the two, Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer, when it came to PMQs as well on this. And Rishi Sunak didn't really give his full backing, shall we say, to Kemi when he was pressed with the questions. And I just don't understand why the full findings have not been shared as well. So that's also another thing to be asked as well. I think it will be interesting when Henry Sultan gets to speak again on this. And there's a good chance he may have already spoken in the committee hearing by the time you guys see this, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But Rishi Sunak, he knows he's a dead man walking when it comes to the general election. He knows the clock is ticking on him either way. And it looks like, and I'm alleging here, but it looks like that if he can throw some bad rep towards some of his potential rivals that may try to attempt some kind of coup, which we don't know how true that is, on one or two of them, then obviously that will be fascinating to say the least. It's a disunited party, that is for sure. The Conservatives, considering all the factions that they are. Guys, while you're here, just a reminder, if you can hit the like button, it'd be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. So guys, just before I go to the next article, if you want to financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or you can join me on Patreon as well, for exclusive content there, or even on Rumble for exclusive content. The links are for them in their description. By becoming a YouTube member, whenever you comment on any of my videos, I always respond to your comments. Sometimes it'll take a day or two, but normally I always respond to any comments that you make on any of my videos as a YouTube member. If you go for the $2.99 membership, you get early access to all my contents, and the moment I finish them and upload them, you guys get instant access to them, and you can give your reactions before they become public to everyone else. So, guys, this next one, we'll move away from this all now. So, the next one, guys, is an exclusive from iNews. This is a town overrun by sewage trucks as pipes burst sparks second major spill this year. Second! This year! It's only February! South West Waters relaunches the use of tankers to transport sewage from a burst pipe to pumping stations along the Exmouth coast. I don't know if it was on here or on Patreon where I covered this story. But my God, I remember talking about this talking about the first one and how infuriating it was. And I've said this before about how it's disgusting that we allow overflows of sewage into our rivers and that. But my God, another burst pipe. It just shows just how little these water companies care about their job. You know, they're just looking to make profit, and no one's doing anything about it. No one's doing anything about it. Where the hell is Ofwat? Where the hell is the government? Where's DEFRA on this? Like, it's just so infuriating, and I feel so sorry for this town because it's the second major spill this year, and it's only February. It's not right in any way, shape, or form, and it's just so sad. One of Devon's most popular beaches is again being subjected to untreated sewage being pumped in the sea just months after the large major spill. South West Water (SWW) had told local residents that it has relaunched the use of tankers to transport sewage each day from a burst pipe to pumping stations along the Exmouth coast. The move has once again resulted in pollution warnings at the East Devon tourist hotspot on several occasions in the past week. The water firm has apologised for the disruption. Towns like these rely on tourism to make money. They need tourism to make money. But they're not going to make money if their waters are full of sewage. Campaigners claim that the pollution warnings began on the 8th of February, but SWW did not directly write to customers and alerting them to another burst pipe until last Wednesday. In an email dated on the 13th of February, the water company, which was fined $2.15 million for illegally dumping sewage into rivers and the sea in Devon and Cornwall last year, told the residents, "We're working hard to repair another burst in the Exmouth area. We need to temporarily use tankers again to allow our team to safely work on the damaged pipe." 3 days later, the company wrote to locals again, apologising for the issue, which were ongoing as of Wednesday afternoon, 13 days after the tankering of millions of litres of sewage through the town began. God forbid if ever one of those tankers spill on the streets. In January, the Eye revealed that SWW had been accused of dumping millions of litres of raw sewage into the sea at Exmouth after sending 240 tankers a day to an overflowing pumping station. Local sea swimmer Joe Bateman, who is taking SWW to court over the sewage spills that regularly prevents her from taking her daily dip, said, "We're just getting the usual guff from the SWW. They say they care and they're doing everything they can to fix the problem, but they keep happening. They were all the issue from mid-December and went on until January, and this latest burst pipe is leading to yet more pollution, with warnings about the dangers of swimming at our beaches being made since February the 8th. The issue is that SWW just reacted to problems just as they occur rather than proactively trying to prevent them from happening in the first place. Meanwhile, the executives and shareholders continue to profit from bonuses and dividend payments. Since the transporting of sewage from the site to the latest burst pipe to pumping stations and treatments of work around Exmouth, the Environment Agency EA advised against swimming in the sea due to raw sewage being pumped into the water. Yeah, I remember covering this. This warning from the EA, which was issued on the 15th of February, remained in place on Wednesday evening. It reads, "Bathing is not advised due to pollution from sewage." Are they going to have this sorted before the summer? Before spring? During a community meeting held by SWW in Exmouth on Tuesday night, locals staged a protest in what they say is completely continued failure to protect the local environment. East Devon District Council leader Paul Arnott, who attended the protest, said SWW had brought 5 security guards to the meeting for protection. But there were no reports of any trouble. These guys filling their pockets while allowing sewage to spill. It just boils my blood. 26 of the 30 district council wards in East Devon have experienced an untreated sewage spill since 2022, meaning more than 82% of the local population live in a ward affected by the pollution. A spokesperson for SWW says, "We want to reassure our customers that we are working hard in Exmouth to fix the burst on one of our critical rising mains. We've now completed the extension of the temporary overland pipe, which we hope to bring online later today. This will mean that we can then stand down the tankers, where we are also working on a permanent replacement of the entire raising mains, which will be completed by the end of March. We are very sorry for the disruption caused, and we will continue to keep everyone updated." How sorry do you guys think they are? I don't think they're sorry. I think they're just I just don't think they care. I think they're just doing as minimum work as possible, guys, on this, and because they just don't care. The way this has been handled is so abhorrent, and you know, luckily it is February and it's not summertime that this is happening in terms from a tourist perspective, so from that point of view, but still it's still pretty distasteful, to say the least. And you guys know how I feel about the environment. I care about the environment, I really do. I care about our lands and our seas around the country, and it's just so disgusting that we're not treating sewage the way it should be, and these pipes that are bursting and whatnot, it's just should not be happening. It's because they don't look after them, they don't maintain them enough. That's the problem, because they're looking to rack in as much money as they can for themselves, and that's the problem here. It's all about profiteering to them. They don't give a poop whatsoever about us or this country in any way, shape or form. These are private companies who only care about one thing. Private companies only care about money. They don't give a damn about what goes on in local towns and sewage being spilled. All they care about is their bottom line and their shareholders. That's all they care about, guys. So, guys, I've got 3 more articles to come through here on Regan's Newsround. I'm going to break the ice a little bit with this one from Matt Green, which was I think about a week or 2 ago, with the headline from "Where are the Brexit benefits?" Hope you guys enjoy.
This week marks the 4-year anniversary of the UK leaving the EU. I assume you had a party. I'm joined by the Minister for Fairy Tales, Rose-Tinted Spectacles and the Benefits of Brexit, the Right Honourable Geoffrey MP. Best 4 years of my life. Many small businesses are complaining that they have a lot more red tape to deal with. Well, everyone knew there would be a bit more red tape when trading with Europe. You specifically said at the time that there would be no new tariff or non-tariff barriers to trade. No, I didn't. You did. In fact, we've got a recording of you in 2016 saying exactly that. There will be no new tariff or non-tariff barriers to trade, and you can quote me on that. I really need to get a new suit. Minister, you missed the subtext of what I was saying, which is that I hoped you wouldn't quote me on that. I've spoken to a farmer today who said that his business has really suffered. Well, I've spoken to loads of farmers in my head who've said it was fine. In your head. Head, phone in show, what's the difference? And anyway, who are you going to believe, eh? Someone who spends all their time with animals, or a man who sounds like me? Exactly. Can you point to one tangible benefit? We got our sovereignty back. So you think that's what most people voted for, the concept of sovereignty? Yes, and we all said it at the time. Being out of the EU will be amazing. Everything will be cheaper. And as a bonus, we'll get our sovereignty back. But I know you guys don't really care about that. You see, I mentioned sovereignty. But you accept that prices have actually gone up. We've halved inflation this year, which simply means that the rate of increase has slowed. Halved sounds better. And won't these new checks at the border push up food prices further? Only if businesses choose to pass these costs on, which they won't if they love their country. You're telling businesses that to be patriotic means losing money. That's just the cost of doing business. And businesses know all about the cost of doing business because they're businesses. With costs. More costs. It's just the cost of doing business. And if they didn't want those costs, maybe they shouldn't have voted to leave. But you told them everything would be fine. And I was right. How? I'm fine. Next up, as the new series of The Apprentice starts in the UK, we ask, is this the most harmful TV format ever? Promoting an aggressively nasty style of management, leading to the rise of figures such as Katie Hopkins and Donald Trump, and perhaps worst of all, popularising the idea that you speak on the phone like this.
Ah, dear. Matt Green, guys. Make sure you subscribe, check out his YouTube channel, and watch all his content whenever you get the chance to, guys. If you can check out his tour as well, please do as well in 2024. I don't know. It may come into a town near you, so do check it out if you get a chance to do that, guys. Excuse me. So the next one we got, guys, is from The Independent. Another sad story. This one, I'm afraid. So the headline is bosses could be sued if reasonable adjustments for menopausal women is not made. The guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission has been issued to bosses to clarify their legal obligations to menopausal women. So, there needs to be, obviously, so speaking as a man here, I want to say that it's very important that women are given the assurances and comfort that they need when they are have their issues, and that they should not be treated indifferently simply because they have these, and if reasonable adjustments are not made for looking after them and their well-being, that's pretty much discrimination. Just because it is pretty much discrimination, full blanket, full stop. Not naming names, but one time I had when I was at one point in one of my jobs, I had to deal with one woman who was suffering immeasurably from a lot of period pain. She was coming into work because she didn't want to lose her work pay, and I kept telling her that you need to stop worrying about your work pay and looking after yourself. And she was coming in, despite taking what she needed to take, she was still suffering from them. And I basically told her to stop coming into work, basically, because I didn't want her working through pain, despite the fact that she wanted pay to sit. There was I'm not going to go into the details of the pay. Of sick pay and that with the company that I was working for at the time, but I was more concerned about her well-being than anything else, and that should be the premise. That should be for any employers with their colleagues, is that they want to make sure that your employees are comfortable and happy and are okay to work. Obviously, we don't want a situation where people are stuck at home on sick pay, but the health and well-being of everyone, including women, who whatever they go through needs to be looked after here, and reasonable adjustments should be made for anyone in this situation. So employers could be sued if they do not make reasonable adjustments for menopausal women in the workplace, the Equalities Watchdog has suggested. Guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, the EHRC, has been issued to bosses to clarify their legal obligations to women going through the menopause. Symptoms of the menopause, which can include hot flushes, brain fog, and difficulty sleeping, can be considered a disability under Equalities Act 2010 if they have a long-term and substantial impact on a woman's ability to carry out their usual day-to-day activities, according to the watchdog. Bosses should consider how room temperatures and ventilations affect menopausal women, and think about providing rest areas or quiet rooms, as well as cooling systems or fans for women experiencing hot flushes, the guidance said. I think obviously some workplaces vary, obviously depending on them, but in my workplace, when I was dealing with this situation, we had pretty various rooms, but because she didn't live too far, I didn't want to, because of the kind of work that we were working under, I didn't want her working in the condition that she was in. And I think anyone I think that these things, while they sound very reasonable, it's very difficult for some employers, especially if some of the workplaces and conditions that they're in are very tight. It could be a case that the staff room, with where it's not enough space, it could be too small. It may be a case that what can tend to happen is maybe some of these women may end up just going and hiding in the bathroom, because obviously they will need their space, shall we say, because everybody needs a bit of space, because some conditions there are very cramped for some workplaces that people can work in. So I would say it could be very difficult for some employers as well. And I think that while some employers can be pretty horrible, there may be some who are kind of a bit hamstrung on how they can best help women in these experiences as well. And employers understanding their legal duties is the foundation of equality in the workplace. I think that's pretty should be standard for any employer when it comes to looking after their workforce. It adds that women could be helped by flexible working, including being allowed to work from home, and start and finish times should be varied if a woman has had a bad night's sleep or on a warmer day. I don't see, like, for me, like, in terms of if they are able to work from home, I don't see a problem with that. I think it can vary. It depends obviously on the situation. It's a case by case basis, I think, is the right thing to say as well. Relaxing uniform policies or allowing menopausal women to wear cooler clothes and also be a way of helping them. Failure to make these reasonable adjustments will amount to a disability discrimination under the Act if a worker's menopause symptoms amount to a disability, the watchdog said. I am a little bit concerned that some women may take advantage of this as well. That it is as well on these reasons, because we don't want them being treated like queens when they're supposed to be working as well. So I am a little bit concerned about the fact that they could face serious consequences, employers. So I am cautious, shall we say, on this as well. Taking disciplinary action against a menopausal woman because of menopause-related absence from work could amount to unlawful discrimination unless it is justified, the guidance adds. This 100% agree. Yeah, this 100% agreement. As long as 100% agreement on that. Using language that ridicules someone because of their menopausal symptoms could be harassment. Yep, agreed. Uniform policy that disadvantages women with menopause symptoms could also amount to indirect sex, age, or disability discrimination, Watchdog warns. A video explaining the guidance says the cost of failing to make workplace adjustments for staff can run into the hundreds of thousands of pounds when taking into account the cost of talent and the cost of defending the claim. Research shows 1 in 10 women who have worked during the menopause have left their jobs due to symptoms, the watchdog has said. 2/3 of women between the ages of 40 and 60 with experience of menopausal symptoms have had a mostly negative impact on them at work, it added. Very few workers request workplace adjustments during that time, often citing concerns about potential reactions, the watchdog had added. It is encouraging employers to carefully consider the guidance available on its website to adapt their policy and practices accordingly. The EHRC chairwoman, Baroness Kingwisher Falconer, said, as Britain's equality watchdog, we are concerned that both by how many women report being forced out of their role due to their menopause-related symptoms and how many don't feel safe enough to request their workplace adjustment. An employer understands their legal duties as the foundation of equality in the workplace. It is clear that many may not fully understand their responsibilities to protect their staff going through the menopause. Our new guidance set out legal obligations for employers and provides advice on how they can best support their staff. We hope that this guidance helps ensure every woman going through their menopause is treated fairly and can work in a supportive and safe environment. I think it's as well, it's just for me, it is also just a case of a bit of applying common sense as well to whatever situation that they may be in. I think that also, just apply some common sense and understandability of what they're going through, and try not to assume too much. And everybody's situation is different, and hopefully, I just hope that there isn't a case where women are find themselves discriminated just because they're going through that. I really hope not. But at the same time, there is a part of me that is concerned about that there may be some women who may take advantage of it. I'm not saying there are women that are going to take advantage of it, but there some women may take advantage of it as well. So I am cautious on that regard as well. But everybody should be given a fair and equal rights in any regardless on that. I hope people appreciate what I've said and understand where I'm coming from, because in no way or shape or form am I saying that women shouldn't have that space. They should have that space. But there are also some employments and some situations where it's almost impossible for the employer able to provide that, given depending on the workplace, the circumstances, and the building that it could be in as well. So there are lots of factors into it, but I think if long as common sense is applied, it should be okay. So guys, we've got 2 more articles to go through. The next one here is from Open Democracy. If you guys haven't already, please hit the like button. We greatly appreciate it. Share across social media so others are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. The headline for this one, if I got it on the right one, I think so. Yes, I have got it on the right one, sorry. So the headline is from Open Democracy. Britain wants to ban boycotts of Israel. And what does that mean? Does that mean that they're working? So the Conservatives want to stop public bodies engaging in boycotts of Israel campaigns, but it's unlikely to stop. But that's unlikely to stop grassroots organisers. So before I read into this, I just want to make, because obviously we're going back to the issue with regarding to what's happening in Gaza. I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't have an issue with the state of Israel, the country Israel. What I have an issue is with its government and its leader and its handling of what's happening over in the Gaza Strip. I've never had an issue with people with Israel, but I think this is the heat that is building up from this is incredibly extreme and tenuous. But unless the situation is resolved over there, these things are just not going to go away, guys. They're not going to go away whatsoever, and it's frustrating to say the least. So let's read into this, guys, just to get our understanding of this a bit more. So when neighbours who met at pro-Palestine marches learnt that a charity in their East London borough was raising cash for the Israeli military, they quickly organised. Their goal was to pressure the local Chabad Lukjevich Centre to withdraw its fundraising for a reserve unit in northern Israel. Horrific details about Israel's siege of Gaza had been emerging for months, with reports of tens of thousands of deaths at scenes of devastation in civilian areas. We're young, old men, women, Muslim, non-Muslim, one told us. We protested outside their offices and wrote to the Charities Commission and our MP en masse. We also climbed ladders and waved our flags in protest. We were disgusted that the genocide had made its way to our doorstep. The neighbours group had hastily convened in December under the name of Red Bridge Palestinian Society Network. Today, a spokesperson said that the network has more than 350 members. Red Bridge is a large multicultural borough in the Greater London Brailsbury with Essex that is both Muslim and Jewish populations. The charity in the Grant Hall area of Redbridge had never responded to the campaign, and a donation link remains live on its website. Through the words, their subsidy changed from donation of equipment needed to the soldiers of Israel to donate in honour of our soldiers and the safe return of the hostages. The Chabad Lukjevich Centre did not respond to our request for comment. What's more, the Redbridge Council has spent more than £2,000 removing Palestinian flags from main roads after receiving a letter from the UK lobbying group UK Lawyers for Israel. But the group still considers its actions a success. Members typically replace the flags within 24 hours of a sort of cat and mouse game and continue to picket the charity, part of a larger network across North East London that supports local Jewish communities. Sooner or later, the Redbridge Palestinian Society Network hopes the Chabad Lukjevich Centre will reconsider its backing for the Israel military. If their priority was actually to get the hostages out, I'd be a little bit sympathetic to the cause of them wanting to support the Israel military. But given that there has been many footages out there of Israeli militaries doing abhorrent and horrific things, the IDF, that I have seen, it's hard for me to have sympathy for this charity raising money for the Israeli military. Let's not forget the fact that the United Kingdom is also arming Israel's military as well out there as well. So it's very hard for me to have any sympathy whatsoever for them. The support for Palestine in our area is clear, said the group member, who asked not to be named. We won't stand by while councils, companies and charities are complicit in genocide and politicians are failing to speak up or represent as they should. Israel was accused of perpetrating genocide in Gaza last month at the International Court of Justice by South Africa, which Israel denied. The court stopped short of calling for a ceasefire but ordered Israel to prevent acts that could amount to genocide. A ruling on whether Israel has actually been commissioned genocide could take longer. See here, this is the thing. Like, people don't see these people have been branded. I'm just gonna pull out on the bigger screen here. These are Israelis standing in solidarity with what's happening. So I just wanted to put that out there, that this is not all, that not all Israelis are like this. And I just wanted to show that there for people. The flags and the picketing of charity offices represent just one of many small acts of resisting taking place across the UK and the world under the boycott, divestment and sanctions BDS umbrella. BDS targets specific public bodies or private companies accused of aiding what it calls Israel's operate. Since it began in 2005, the BDS campaign has attracted high-profile supporters, including Archbishop Desmond Tutu in South Africa, US politicians like Imran Omar, and authors by Afreen Roy in India to Benjamin Zeppelin in the UK. But the movement has also attracted significant pushback from Israel's supporters, particularly in the UK and US. The ramifications of anti-boycott bill currently making its way through Britain's House of Lords are likely to ripple beyond the UK shores, showing how far Israel's allies are prepared to go in clamping down on the practice. Israel can only maintain military occupation and apprehend because of the complicity of governments and corporations in Britain around the world, said Lewis Beckton, campaign officers at the Palestine Society campaign that coordinates the weekly pro-Palestinian demonstrators that have been taking place across the UK since October. BDS gives us a strategy to turn our rage into meaningful action. It is a way in which people in Britain and elsewhere can reject our tacit approval of Israel. The campaign calls for the boycott of a number of companies where it believes it can have a maximum impact and calls on a larger list of companies to diverse from its state of Israel. Since October, leaders of the movement from Palestinian civil society have also endured in what they call our organic boycott targets, which BDS itself does not initiate: McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and Burger King. The strategies of BDS has always been about institutional divestment over consumer boycotts. Shabi Laka, a campaigner for the anti-war group Stop the War, personal consumer boycotts in the UK are welcome, he added, but in the wider organised movement around the world that's important, essentially creating a situation where Israel is a paradise state and our companies that are directly profiting from apprehending occupation. The draconian new anti-boycott bill, which is being considered by the UK's House of Lords this week, is evidence about the treatment of BDS is working, according to Laka. First introduced to the British Parliament in the summer by the Department of Levelling Up Housing Community, the economic activity of public bodies overseeing matters bills was originally promised in the 2019 Conservative Party manifesto in a pledge to ban public bodies from imposing its own direct or indirect boycotts, disinvestments or sanctions campaigns against foreign countries. Israel and Palestine are the only states currently explicitly named in the legislation whose stated aim is to stop public bodies from pursuing their own foreign policy agenda. Opponents argue that in reality the bill itself will stop public bodies, including NHS trusts, councils and even the government itself, achieving their environmental, ethnic and international human rights obligations by forcing them to invest in companies and states whose actions are damaging. Amnesty International previously said that the bill effectively grants Israel impunity at a time of flagrant breaches of international law in Gaza and the West Bank. Public procurement represents around 14% of the UK economy, which said Kristin Bedekart, the Charity Crisis Response Manager, which provides an enormous opportunity to drive the transition of sustainable production and consumption. If, however, businesses believe their public bodies are unlikely to exclude them from contracts on human rights grounds, then this creates a form of moral hazard when the companies that respect human rights face being undercut by those that don't. The wording of the bill is deliberately vague, which will make it difficult to implement, in the opinion of Dan Del Grafique, a legal officer at the European Centre of Legal Support, which gives legal help to Palestinian rights activists in Europe. But the vague wording could also give rise to a wider chilling effect, leading people to believe that it bans free expression on Palestine altogether. It's quite evident that the main intent of this bill is to silence politicians and others from speaking up about Palestinian rights, said de Gaffrey. And that's the thing, that they're trying to silence. They should not be silencing their rights in any way, shape, or form. Now, freedom of speech is definitely something that's being eroded in this country. These are locals putting their Palestinian flags up around Redbridge, East London, and Redbridge Palestinian Society Network there. A wave of similar moves to ban BTS have taken place in streets and university campuses across the US and in Germany. 2019 legislation condemned any sympathy with the BDS in official institutions, calling it anti-Semitic. A new initiative there, Similarity, attempts to ban boycotts of publicly funded institutions such as art bodies and academic groups. According to Amnesty, Benefit, smear campaigns by Israel and its allies are behind the proliferation of the anti-BDS laws. Such laws violate freedom of expression, help shield the Israel authorities from accountability for violations of international law, and harm the fight against genuine anti-Semitism, she added. Not all Western countries have reacted with hostility. Across the Irish Sea, Sinn Féin President Mary Lou Donald has announced that her party is working with councils across Northern Ireland to ban the awarding of contracts to businesses that profit from human rights abuses in Palestine and across the world. It's tough to measure the effects of the BDS on company lenders or Israel's economy. The movement is largely decentralized, with activities happening locally and nationally run by different groups and individuals. The companies are cutting ties with Israel, most recently the German sportswear brand Puma, the BDS target since 2018, which announced in December that it would not renew its contract with the Israeli Football Association. Yeah, I don't blame them for doing that. The thing is that the government and Benjamin Netanyahu, they're not painting themselves as good picture. You know, these boycotts, they're only getting louder, they're only getting bigger. People don't forget these. Puma has rejected the claim that BDS was behind its decision, but the BDS movement has claimed it as a victory, saying leaked internal messages reveal that Puma was under tremendous pressure to drop the contract. The years of relentless global BDS pressure on Puma and the damage to the image should be a lesson to all companies supporting Israel apartheid that complicity has consequences. I do think that pressure did apply to them. By contrast, McDonald's and Starbucks have openly admitted that anti-Israeli boycotts hurt their sales in the last quarter of 2023. Both claim they have been misrepresented, with McDonald's distancing itself on a corporate level from the actions of its franchise seen on social media, offering free meals to the IDF. The fast food giant is now seeking $1.3 million in damages from the BDS movement, allegedly defamation. Well, you know, if you weren't offering free meals to the Israeli Defense Force, that probably didn't help your position, your image in any way, shape, or form, McDonald's. So I don't think that was a very good idea. That's just my opinion. A current target for the movement for the UK is Barclays Bank. Stella Swan, youth and student campaigner at the Palestinian Society campaign, said Barclays had held over $1 billion worth of shares in firms whose weapons, components, and military technology were being used by Israel in its attacks on Palestinians, who have provided those firms with more than £3 billion in loans. You and I aren't in the market of making weapons, she said, so what we aim to do is target places like Barclays that have shares in those kind words of companies, because that is what's making them complicit. She claims 1,500 people agreed to close their accounts, and that another large group of people who currently bank elsewhere have vowed to keep steering clear of Barclays. Swan points out that the bank is also a major target of South Africa's anti-apartheid movement in the 1980s. Bankers of BDS often draw its comparisons. Labour peer Peter Han told the House of Lords on Tuesday that his anti-BDS bill would have prevented UK councils from boycotting apartheid South Africa at the time. There isn't any one target that will win this. It has to be more of a gradual approach, said De Gaffe. However, he points to online tourism operators like TripAdvisor, Expedia, and Booking.com that continue to profit from Israel's settlers in the occupied territories who rent out their accommodation. Getting them to change their position on this would be a huge blow to Israel's ability to say that this is business as usual, he said. Back in Grants Hill, the campaigners take over a branch of McDonald's every Thursday to peacefully chant, sit in and educate customers on staff and why McDonald's is complicit in genocide. And as Ramadan approaches, they stand outside the town hall and yell passers-by which brands of date of Palestinian staples are grown by in Israeli settlements, in the hope that people will choose to boycott these too. We basically try every angle, they said. We will be relentless. We won't stop until our voices are heard. It's incredibly damaging, the work that they are doing to Israel. But if what they do means that Israel will stop what's happening, then I'd say go for it. I know people don't like protests. I know people don't like disruption to their lives, but I understand and I respect the cause that they are doing. They're trying. The point is not. The point is that we all want the bloodshed to stop. And while I understand, as long as they are not, at the moment, I don't see anything from them that is saying to me that they're making massive disruption. We're not talking like vandalism, like standing in the middle of the street stopping people from living their lives sort of thing. I don't think it's gone to that level, and I think what BTS are doing is reasonable and not crossing the line, in my opinion. Now, some of you may disagree and think they're going too far, and that's entirely your discretion. But based on what I've read here, I don't think they've gone that far. But I think if it does help in stopping, puts Israel under pressure, because we need to apply some kind of pressure to Israel, because certainly the West are not applying it, in calling for in stopping some kind of ceasefire there, the sooner the better, is what I will say. So guys, we've got one more story for you. I know it's been a long one here on Speaking My Mind. Not Speaking My Mind? No, that's I'm thinking of the wrong series. It's Regan's Newsround here, sorry. Because it's been a long one, guys. Just one last thing. If you can financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or joining me on Patreon or Rumble for exclusive content there as well, guys. So this last one is about Prince William is part of a problem. A plan for 24 new homes for the homeless duped. A drop in the ocean in Cornwall amid a mounting crisis. Activists in Cornwall say the scheme, while welcome, barely touched the sights of 23,000 languish on a council waiting list. So Prince William, I'm going to have to read a bit into this, because I looked at this headline and I'm thinking, so he's doing something good, but he's also part of the problem, and it's nowhere near enough of it. It's basically what they're essentially saying here. So Cornish councils and activists have warned that plans by the $1 billion Duchies of Cornwall state, now controlled by Prince William, to build 24 homes for homeless people on Crown land that will make a little dent in the housing crisis that has left 23,000 people waiting for a council home. While working with homeless charities St Piros, the Duke of Cornwall has pledged to spend £3 million to build homes due to be ready next year for homeless people to move into. Cornwall Council Labour Group leader Jane Coffey has welcomed the scheme, but told Byline Times that it represents a drop in the ocean to tackle the issue. Obviously, we need something more systematic than a project like this, she said. It's a huge problem and we're struggling all across Cornwall. I've seen many families evicted from their private rented accommodations, having to live in caravans. It's affected the kids' schools and parents' jobs. Coastal Cornwall has a persistent issue with thousands of unregulated holiday lets and often empty second homes vastly outnumber the number of homes available for rent. So one of the issues that is also down here, obviously this is obviously to do with lack of housing. But this is definitely something that's not just happening in Cornwall, but I think in other places where there are holiday sites and whatnot, is where people basically have second homes, second caravans and whatnot that are taking up slots in these areas, which could be used to help, which instead could be used to help those who need them. So there's obviously a lack of homes in Cornwall. But like I've said, when it comes to housing, the problem isn't just that; it's also the cost for them. I'm trying to see, right. Obviously, we haven't read the full article, but already, on what I'm trying to see is just like, where is this Prince William's fault? Because that's what it says, that he's part of the problem. So where is the point here that is his fault? That's what I'm trying to figure out at the moment. Airbnb listings show that as of February 20th, 2024, there are 976 entire homes available as short-term holiday lets in Cornwall for more than £240 a night. £240 a night. Yet there are just 348 homes currently available for general private rent in its entire county, listed on rightmove.com. Another site, Open Rent, lists 117, while On the Market lists 145. Cornwall has a population of 500,000 people. Jeez. So, I don't know how well you can see this, but the map on the right there, I'll just... I know you can't see it too well. Let me see if I can... That's not going to make a difference. I can't really... I don't think there's a way for me to... Give me 1 second, guys. I'm just going to try and zoom in for you guys. So I don't know how well you can obviously see there. So no, it's not. I'm not really being able to manage it here. So sorry, it's not going to be able to zoom in anymore. But so this is an entire home price range: minimum 1,200, maximum 1,500 there. Airbnb's entire home holidays end listing for Cornwall, more than £240 a night. There are thousands listed when under £240 a night are included there. And then down here, this is one property, £900 per calendar month, right on the Andrew Place Torrell. This is a two-bedroom property there. Sharing £1,350 per calendar month for a semi-detached three-bedroom home there as well, for rented as well. £1,350 per calendar month. Damn. Councillor Court provided the example of a primary school head teacher from outside of the country who took up a job in Cornwall but couldn't find a place to live. People come down, accept jobs, and they end up having to reject a job because they can't find anywhere to live with their practice range, or anything at all, because things are just going so quickly, she told this newspaper. The private rented sector is tiny, but there are thousands of holiday lets that are incredibly expensive. It's very difficult to find anything affordable. The Levelling Up Housing and Community Secretary Michael Gove has announced plans for reforms that require new long-term holiday lets to have to apply for a changed use to let them take out a wider rental market. But this would not apply to thousands of holidays lets already in the system, and is unlikely to impact the issue of second homes that sits empty while owners live in their main residence outside the country. And this is the problem here. Too many people are living outside. Too many of these rentaries, people who have these second homes and are living outside the country. Yeah, that's really frustrating. Former Liberal Democrat MP for St Ives, Andrew George, who now runs a housing charity in Cornwall, which has previously worked for the Duchy estate, had told Byline Times that Prince William's project was nibbling away at the edges, but that's all that we're doing. Since the 1960s, Cornwall's housing stock has almost tripled, he said. It's one of the fastest growing places in the UK, yet the housing problem of locals have gotten significantly worse. So Cornwall disproves that rather two-dimensional kindergarten economics argument, the saying that a simple relationship between demand and supply. He suggested a radical shift in house building is required, a complete halt on developing focus on local needs for affordable housing. It sounds counterintuitive, but the best way of building affordable homes is to stop all development. Then to have an exceptions policy. In other words, to say that the land will never be developed, but if it's to meet a demonstrable needs, they will make an exception. On Gove's reforms, Jones is sceptical. They promised to do these things 6 or 7 years ago. They haven't done anything. All you've got is an untapped announcement of exactly the same thing that they haven't promised. Lib Dem councillor Madra Felika Marjigan represents Malhos and Newington fishing communities, which appear deserted at certain times due to the prevailing of second homes and holiday lets. You can never build enough because people want to move down to lovely Cornwall, she told Byline Times. But we have such a massive crisis. There are roughly 23,000 on the housing waiting list in Cornwall. When we're talking about 24 homes, as soon as you hear 24, you don't look too much. You don't look into it too much more because it's just the tip of the iceberg. There are already around 100 households in emergency temporary accommodation here. Yet we got thousands of Airbnbs and second homes in Cornwall. So you've got so much housing stock gone. Mainly holiday lets are classed as furnished holiday lettings, FHLs, and receive capital gains tax relief and small business rate reliefs, effectively government subsidies. Councillor Margin said the lost business rates have cost councils hundreds of millions in lost revenue over several decades. But she is critical of the push to build more housing of any kind. It's all wrong housing. It's housing with 5 bedrooms. Sorry, 1 second. It's housing with 5 bedrooms. It's not going to help the housing crisis. There seems to be a blanket approach to any house building is good because they're all sold. That stocking is trickling down to locals. It's the opposite. Why are they building houses with 5 bedrooms if that's what they're doing? No. It needs to be simple, affordable homes here. But some locals object to new affordable housing when it is built near them, she added. Yeah, that's another problem as well. This is the thing that we need to address. This premise that people don't want their countrysides ruined by houses. Well, I'm sorry, but you know, we are a growing population and homes need to be built. Yes, we need to build reasonable, affordable homes. But this premise that people don't want homes near them, my response to you is tough. Because that's going to happen. And I'm pretty certain Labour are going to make sure that they override this whole premise of people not being allowed to build homes near them. That needs to be thrown out the window when it comes to, right now, because people can't afford to buy a home. I haven't had a second term, so I'm playing with fire to a certain degree, but sometimes you don't hear from the quieter voices. If you go to planning committee, you'll hear all the objections. You're not hearing from the 800 stuck in temporary accommodations here. Many of those who have been evicted at short notice by landlords swapping regulated private landlord accommodations for unregulated holiday lettings. She notes that the government has said for the past 5 years that it will ban no-fault evictions, but this has still not happened. The Lib Dem councillor, who is an MP hopeful, wants to see a tourist tax to fund new social housing, something else is not addressed in Michael Gove's latest reform plans. It is also not mentioned in the latest Finn devolution deal handed to Cornwall. A stronger devolution package fell apart amid council opposition to having a new elected mayor. And while Airbnbs are being focused nationally on housing, second homes that sit empty are sometimes seen as a bigger problem in Cornwall. If people are only down for a tiny part of the year, those houses are actually having the most impact negatively because they're not spending on tourism, going out on restaurants, all sorts of things. Yeah, at least holiday lets people are consistently around spending on hospitality. In some ways, she told Byron Times the horse are bolted in terms of the government fixing these systematic issues. Meanwhile, Republican campaigners have called out reports on the Duchies of Cornwall in investing in affordable housing as more spin than substance. The anti-monarchy campaign group Republic points out that the Duchy's estate is not Prince William's personal property, but that of the Crown. It is, in effect, gifted by Parliament to the heir, who is the eldest son of the monarch. The Duchy estate may expect to make profit from the homes, which will at any rate remain its asset rather than being donated to St. Petersburg. Graham Smith, Republic CEO, said the country has spent at least $3.4 billion on the monarchy over the next decade. That money could be invested in homes for those who need them instead of 24 placable homes for one family. Prince William takes around £22 million a year in private income from the duchies, representing most of the Crown's company annual surplus. The value of the duchies rose by nearly $25 million in the past year to 2023, solely from the land value of its land increasing without any action on the owner's part. So this is group capital account statements on comprehensive income. The net gain from fair value adjustment on investment property, note 8. Year end, and the last two columns, the second last one is year ending 31st of March 2022, year ending 31st of March 2023. 67,758 to 24,632. Net gain on disposable investment property 19,615 to 8,643. Net gain on re-evaluation of investment properties held for sale, that's note 13, 1,064, brackets 4,818. Net gains on disposal of investment property held for sale 1,801 to 4,699. Massive jumps there. Shares of profit from joint ventures, note 10, 29 to 10. Finance costs 200 to 205, so barely any financial costs. Charge from revenue account for salary costs, note 2, 1,030 to 916. Other costs 721, brackets to 1,871, brackets. Net surplus for the year 88,316 in March 2022. 30,174 in March 2023. The £3 million to be spent on new homes for the homeless amounts to 14% of the Duchy's profit in the year 2023, though a smaller fraction of its circular £1 billion net value. Smith argues that Prince William is part of the problem. Rather than be thankful for the few homes built on the Duchy's lands which William will profit from, we all need to be demanded the return of the Duchy's full public ownership and the end to the monarchy, told this newspaper. If he gave the land, maybe if he gave part of the land, it depends what kind of homes he's building as well for them as well. I think is an issue as well. Whatever side of the monarchy debate locals sit on, the council are marginal shares and experience all political representatives of Cornwall now have. You get a call from somebody saying, I don't want to call this and say this, but I don't know what to do, she said. A family calls me from Newark and said, we've been evicted in 2 weeks, and it's really hard, and that's the reality for it. All 6 parliamentary seats in Cornwall are currently represented by Conservatives, but both Lib Dem and Labour are hoping to take several in this year's general election. So this is much of the land the Duchess of Cornwall owns in terms of acres there, from Devon, Cornwall, pretty much all of them there. I'm not going to read out every single one, but if you want to pause and have a quick look at the acres of land that they own, feel free to do so. It's quite a lot. 52,000 acres in total, guys. This is the source from the Duchess of Cornwall 2023 annual report for those who want to know where the source is from on this. But yeah, they have quite a lot of Devon and Cornwall land, without a shadow of a doubt. So what do I make of the situation? A very difficult situation, I would say, for people down there in that part of the area. But these are the wider problems that are just not going away, guys. It is so, it's a wider range of just many issues when it comes to housing. And these areas are suffering every day, without a doubt. I mean, am I going to go as far to say that I'm not going to go as far to say that what's happening in terms of the housing crisis, you can't blame it on Prince William and the royals. We can't do that. We have to put the finger at the government for the last 14 years. I don't think it's fair to say that it's their fault. A direct result of what's happened in terms of the housing crisis of the last 14 years. You can't directly blame them for that. You can obviously claim, rightfully or wrongfully, that the land that they own and the money that they have is not right, and the money that the monarchy makes could go towards housing. And absolutely, I agree in that perspective that it's not right that we give so much money to the monarchy. I do agree on that perspective, but Conservatives have not done enough, and there's just not enough affordable homes for people. Yeah, it's all well and good building homes, but if the people can't afford these homes, what's the point of these homes in the first place? And I think that's the biggest frustration, without a shadow of a doubt. How they're going to sort out the mess down there, I'm not sure, but it's going to be a tough battle for them whatsoever. But let's hope that they do not vote Conservative at the next general election, because they have been the ones in power for the last 14 years. So they've not done anywhere near enough when it comes to housing. Now, have Labour done better? I would say they're not perfect, but I certainly think, yeah, we want something a little bit different than what we've had for the last 14 years. And I think hopefully them down there will choose to do that at the next general election. But looking at those prices of rents and homes is quite a lot as well. It's really quite a lot. So, guys, we have come to the end of Regan's news round. Over 1.5 hours. What did you guys make of some of the stories and news that we covered today? What did you guys make of some of the thoughts that I've given along? Let me know your thoughts about all of these in the comments section down below. But just before you go, guys, I just want to say, if you can, if you haven't already, please hit the like button. Be greatly appreciated. Please share this across social media so other people are notified of this video, and subscribe because it really does help support the channel. And finally, if you want to financially support me in the work I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or joining me on Patreon or Rumble for exclusive content there as well. I also share my short videos on TikTok or Instagram as well, so if you have a TikTok or Instagram, you can follow me on both those platforms as well. The links for them are in the description. And you can always join us on the Discord community as well. The link for that is in the description. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.